the lure of the money is sure what drew me back in, but it's not what I focus on.
What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. Today we've got an interesting interview from Doug Driesel, what I call the Vince McMahon, but he says the Paul Heyman of thumb wrestling? What the heck? Why are we talking about thumb wrestling? You're going to want to stick around for this chat. Doug talks about the things he's collecting, what exactly went into creating a thumb wrestling organization. Guys, I know that sounds crazy, but just stay with me. You're going to want to check this out because this is something that when I first started watching it, I was kind of having those ECW, XPW feels of I didn't care what was going on in the ring. It was the presentation of the product and what went into it. So that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. Production, creating content, of course collecting oddball stuff. But if this is your first time checking out the channel, thanks for stopping by. If you're already subscribed to this channel, thank you for your continued support. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up, hit that bell icon so you never miss any uploads, and make sure to check out all the links below in the show notes for other ways you can help support the show, such as the podcasts that I'm a part of. I've got Patreon, Spotify, social media links, all that stuff below. But without further ado, let's jump into the interview with Doug Driesel from the NDWA. What's up, wrestling card fans, wrestling fans in general? We've got Doug Driesel on the line, or should I say the Vince McMahon of thumb wrestling.
Hey, I prefer the Paul Heyman, but that's just me.
Oh, the extreme.
Well, I like his style better. I like the improvisation. I think that fits more with what we do. The showing up and seeing who's there and being, oh, okay, you and you are going to be in a match. That's sort of the type of thing I like to do.
I don't want to jump the gun. We'll talk about your promotion here in a little bit, but actually that's a much better comparison compared to what the organization does. So why don't you just introduce yourself, give people a very short background, and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay, well, why don't we go through your typical line of questioning? How did I get started in collecting, right? Is that where we're going to start?
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right. Good. My mom's side of the family has had baseball cards since forever, so I've been collecting cards since I don't know when. Like before I was able to form memories. And then when I was 9 years old, a friend of mine introduced me to Marvel Series 3 trading cards, the Marvel Universe Series 3 trading cards. And I was like, oh, they make trading cards for cool art and not boring baseball?
Right.
Awesome. And I was hooked from there. And eventually I moved into comic books, and comic books started taking up more of my money than the trading cards. But after I got done with all of that, I finally gave my trading cards to my nephews about 5 years ago. And then I just, happened to read a random article about how much they would have been worth now. And I was like, oh, hey, maybe that frivolous thing I used to do isn't so frivolous anymore. And even though now I've started jumping back in, I still collect your oddball stuff that doesn't cost. Like I just completed my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy set.
That's interesting.
So I go for stuff that's real cheap in my collection these days. So I'm not worried about the money, but the lure of the money is sure what drew me back in, but it's not what I focus on.
Yeah. I think that's just the true collector mindset. If the money comes, it comes. But if you're enjoying what you're doing, and one thing I want to talk about, kind of like what you're currently collecting, I think it's interesting that you're going after more of the oddball stuff and not going after whatever mainstream is telling you to do, whatever kind of niche of collectibles that may be, whether it's, I know we saw like a big thing of comics recently, or people are like graded comics, which I still think are awesome, but maybe there's certain aspects of that aren't for everybody. So maybe you like comics, but you're going with the card perspective because maybe it's cheaper. I've talked about before, maybe it's easier to store. I know offline, we've talked about some grading of these cards. So what are you currently collecting, and why do you think you're kind of gravitated to go towards what you collect?
Well, like I said, I do a lot of the oddball stuff. Like I just finished my Mad Magazine Lime Rock Series 2 and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm working on the Amalgam set that Marvel and DC put out together in, I think it was 97, I want to say. Like those are the kind of things I go after just because I'm not looking to make money. I'm looking to collect the things that I would have easily paid $5 a pack for back in the day, and now I can get the the full box. But
So
I also
quick question. I'm sorry to cut you off. When you're buying that stuff out of curiosity, what do you find in the price points at the stuff you want from older sets? Because we've seen with wrestling, certain aspects of sports cards, definitely certain aspects of Marvel cards. Some of that stuff is just skyrocketed, while other of it is very affordable. So what are you seeing from price point for, just in case people are watching this and they want to go back and buy some of that stuff?
it's really cool. There's what I've been doing a lot lately is the dreaded buy and break. Like I do a lot of that because a lot of the oddball older sets are still easy to find in wax pack form. You get high quality cards, but you're also sacrificing, because the old wax packs, you're losing the top card and the bottom card because of the wax buildup and the bubble gum. But there's things like Zero Heroes is another one that I'm going for. That's like a 1983 set. I want to get the full set of those. Those look awesome to me. But for the price point of the older stuff and for the not as older stuff, on the stuff I'm looking for is really cheap, because that's really what I do. Is my eBay searches, my eBay and Mercari searches are generally set up for trading card pack box, something very, very vague. And then I could just kind of just sort through the weeds, and I set my price point really low, and then I just see what's available for what I can afford that I would enjoy breaking.
So what would you say your favorite things are right now that you have in your collection?
Right now, well, since we're on wrestling with cards, other than my vast Howard the Duck, like I don't have any Howard the Duck comics right now, but I have a huge Howard the Duck card and other collectors. Like I've got a Howard the Duck for President button and a Howard the Duck 7-Eleven cup from 1976. But other than that, I collect Jerry Lawler family oddball cards.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I started with those super match cards that we traded for. I kept my Honky Tonk Man, so that's part of that collection. I have a Jerry Lawler 2008 Chrome Relic from him. It's one of those ones that doesn't say when or where or if it was actually Jerry Lawler who wore it, but it's still kind of cool. And then I also have a 23 karat gold Too Cool card. Brian Christopher, of course, for those who don't know, is Jerry Lawler's son. And I also have someone just gave me this out of nowhere, and I think it's hilarious to own it. A Mae Young elite action figure, elite collection action figure. Is so having an action figure. And I know they didn't mean to do this, because all of the action figures from that collection come with severed hands that you can put in and out. But I thought it being a fun callback to a very disgusting and weird storyline from my childhood.
Absolutely. What's drawing you to, as far as the wrestling end, what drew you to Jerry Lawler and kind of the Memphis area stuff? Did you watch a lot of Memphis, or is it the kind of the comedy aspect of that with Andy Kaufman? What drew you to Jerry Lawler? Because I think that's cool that you're collecting something that isn't, Hogan, Rock, Steve Austin, stuff like that. I'm always interested in the people who are collecting the stuff off the beaten path. You mentioned Howard the Duck. I loved the movie. I never really got into the comics, but Howard the Duck is not X-Men. You know what I'm saying? So I love listening to these stories.
Well, as far as the Jerry Lawler stuff goes, it's kind of a buildup of stuff, because of course the Kaufman thing brings me into Jerry Lawler. You got to respect somebody who can see the merger there, wrestling and comedy. But I really think that he's what a lot of people would call their Gorilla Monsoon. Like he's Bobby Heenan. He's my Bobby Heenan. He's the color commentary for me. I grew up, I watched some stuff as a kid, mostly live when they'd come to town, but when it was really in the Attitude Era, when it kicked in for me, it was I started watching wrestling, the Raw before the pay-per-view, before the Raw before the first SmackDown. So I started watching the week before the first SmackDown.
Sure.
So that's when I started watching. So for me, Jerry Lawler's just the guy. You know, and I go back and watch some of that stuff, and I've evolved to not appreciate some of the stances Jerry Lawler took during those times.
Yeah, there's definitely some not politically correct things from Memphis TV, but like for me, that's wrestling.
That's wrestling. That's you know, I mean, it's you take the good with the bad and everything, and you know, I mean, you take the Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Mr. T, but you also take those really questionable Rowdy Roddy Piper promos about Mr. T. You know, it's just how it works.
And I think this is actually real quick. I was going to make a transition to the NDWA because I think that was a good, talking about that.
We haven't told anybody why I'm here.
No, we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. One more thing. You seem like you're kind of collecting different things. How, as you as a collector, how do you view as far as like storage? Do you like to collect linear things? So whether it's comics, cards, action figures, whatever it is you're collecting, like, are you mainly focused on cards right now? Or are you starting to branch out into other things? Just kind of what's your mentality from a collector standpoint? Because I know a lot of people kind of stay in one lane. Myself, I like to do a little bit of different things because I think there's so many cool things out there that bring up nostalgia, not even necessarily the money, like graded video games, graded comics. Definitely. I'm going to get one of those first Punisher appearance one of these days. Just different stuff like that. So where are you at from a collecting standpoint from just different types?
At the moment, I'm really focused on the oddball cards. I tend to bounce around and hyper focus. Like that's where my collecting goes. Like I'm just getting off of sold as blank VHS tapes. Like I'm just starting to sell off that collection and use that to finance my weird trading card collections and stuff. That's really where I am right now. I spend a lot of time on the NDWA, and I spend a lot of time just working day jobs and stuff, so it's not like I have a whole lot of time for a lot of other things.
Sure.
So, that's my thing is I hyper focus. And right now I just felt like after a long time since I stopped being a stand-up comic, I used to be a stand-up comic, everybody. As soon as I stopped being a stand-up comic, I kind of felt like I was searching for my thing, and I don't know, there was a certain almost midlife crisis aspect of wanting to go back to the first thing I remember really exciting me, and that was the Marvel trading cards. And then that kind of led to right now the Marvel market. It's on its way out, but it's still a little pricey in a lot of areas. So I that's why I kind of gravitated more toward the oddball stuff that a lot of people aren't picking up.
So I don't know where to start because I'm going to give this to you, but the NDWA, I'm not even sure if you contacted me first, if I saw the organization on YouTube first. I'm not sure where this started, but I'm going to give the floor to you to just kick things off on what this is, how it started, and your part in it. Paul Heyman.
Okay. So the National Digit Wrestling Association, NDWA Thumbs, is professional thumb wrestling. And it is almost exactly what it sounds like, because it does sound like we dress our thumbs up and then they wrestle. But in a matter of fact, it's a love letter to professional wrestling. We put on costumes, we do promos, we do matches. It's mainly made for production. It's not like we do live shows sometimes, but it's not designed for live shows. It's designed as a web show. It's designed as something that you can watch in installments and stuff. NDWA is called that because it started out as a sketch, and I did not think it would continue on past a sketch. But if I had, I might have just called it thumb wrestling and not something that you have to explain to somebody every time you promote the thing. But it is, it's fun. It is really just 80s and 90s nostalgia wrestling. Don't get me wrong, comedy is at the forefront of what we do.
Sure.
But there are the dramatic elements that you have in wrestling, and there's even some horror elements. We recently had a storyline that more of a great minds think alike than an us parodying them, but we had a storyline that kind of ran parallel to The Fiend. Like, none of us were watching modern WWE product at the time. We were all either vintage or AEW fans. So we didn't really know what was going on with The Fiend, and we were doing a storyline that was very much like the Demon Bob from Twin Peaks. Like, that's where we got the inspiration for that. And then once some of us started watching modern product again, we were like, oh, hey, that's like what we're doing. Uh-oh. You know, and there was some course correction going on as soon as we saw how similar our situations were. We had to lean a little heavier into the Twin Peaks stuff. But basically, it's a group of roughly 10 to 15 people at any given time, playing anywhere between 25 to 30 characters. And we fight for things like the Eddie's Headies 24/7 title.
Pretty good looking belt there.
Yeah, right. They've been our sponsor since the early days, since like 6 months in. Special thanks to Eddie's Headies out there. Also, our Undisputed Championship is another belt that gets fought over quite regularly. Currently, our Undisputed Champion is Trail Fighter Dadoshenko, who may be Australian. And essentially it started off as a sketch. Like I mentioned before, since I stopped doing stand-up, I've been looking for outlets and stuff. I was working at a radio station at the time. I had just invented a game that had a successful Kickstarter, but it turns out I don't really have the business acumen for selling games. So it ended up just mostly being a game my friends and I played at a bar, you know. And one day a dude was late showing up to playing, like an hour late. And I was kind of looking around and I was noticing that the stage had a very wrestling setup. Like, it was very much like set up like a ring. And I thought, oh, like a comedy wrestling thing would go great here. And then the wheels kept turning. And then I was like, oh, thumb wrestling. That's something that a bunch of out of shape, overweight people can do to show up and, yell about how we're going to crush our opponents and how, have fun just kind of shuffling around. And, we started with a table, and then we started very staticky. I got a couple of local, a guy I knew through the bars who used to work at the radio station that I had worked at the time. Another guy who was like a local MC around town. They were my commentary team. We did live commentary in the first bits of it. And then my two improv partners, because I'm in a 3-person improv team, were of course the obvious choices to play the good guy and the bad guy. And then we filmed it. I played the sort of the Vince McMahon of the whole thing, Baron von Satan. And I played him, and it was really fun. And everybody wanted to do another one. And a guy at work had wanted to be part of that. The guy who went on to play Tad Bagler wanted to be part of that, but he had a work thing that weekend. So we're like, well, you guys want to do more. He wants to be a part of it. We'll do a second sketch, I guess, and then it just kind of evolved from there. We started, a lot of us have production background work. So it became a matter of, exactly. And it became a matter of applying what we know to this stupid thing, so we had this stupid thing that we all loved, but let's be honest, it's the dumbest thing you've ever heard of, but it's so fun because of that.
It sounds dumb until you watch it. And then when I first watched it, there's two things I want to say. I was like, it took me back to how I was when I first saw XPW and ECW. I didn't care. I knew it was wrestling. I didn't care about the wrestling. I cared about everything around it, the storylines, the shock value, the what am I watching? And then I also want to point to that, yeah, it's thumb wrestling, but there's actually more going on than just that. So, it's a common misconception. I bet that you get a lot because it's a lot. There's so much to it. So, and it's evergreen content. You guys it's a great creative outlet that you guys can continually make. None of it's dated. You could go back and watch this stuff in 20 years and it's still going to be just as good as it is now. So, Just, is there anything else you could talk to about just kind of getting into the creative aspect and making an outlet for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all like, a lot of us are improvisers. Some of us are performers, but other people are just people we know who thought it was a fun idea and wanted to do it. Like the guy who plays Rick Fierro, that's a guy he plays. Like, he did that before thumb wrestling. He was a friend of one of the original commentators, Dan Austin, and he goes to Kansas City Chief games dressed like that. And he plays a very Ric Flair type character, and like the person who plays Ultima Fandango. I mean, I don't know. She's a student now, but when she first joined up, she was an office administrator. She doesn't perform other than this. It's just stuff she likes to do. So it's a great outlet for a lot of people to do a lot of like improv stuff, because we have changed over the years kind of how we do it, because we initially produced a lot of content, because honestly, my background is in LA and like television and stuff. So I think about producing as much content up top and then releasing it appropriately. And so I had a mindset of, okay, well, this is like any other web series. I'm going to need to put out at least 2 episodes a week, but it's not. It's a production thing. It's a thing that's fully produced. So we ended up cutting back on the amount of episodes we produced. And that also allowed us the freedom of more improvisation, like more having like, okay, this week, here's who's here. We've got Ultima Fandango, we've got Louis the Lush, we've got Tad Bagler. Okay, you guys are in this storyline, so we're gonna have this match, and you're doing a promo on this. We've got a backstage segment over here where Baron von Satan's gonna set up the match for later tonight, and we can kind of put that together on the fly. When we moved to the Riff at Classic Rock Coffee, which is where we are now here in Springfield, Missouri, we had to up our game because it was a little less loosey-goosey. We only had so much time a month. We only get 1 day a month to film in there. So we really had to step up our pre-production game, like know who's going to be there in and out, and make sure that, there's still that improv element, there's still just that, okay, we need to film this scene needs to get this through. This scene needs to get this through. This match, this is who needs to win. This is who needs to, these are the spots we need to hit, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of the improv elements. The comedy elements are there, especially because I keep a very loose set. I'm the dude who does everything, by the way. You also asked me what I do here. I do like everything. Jake, who plays Mayday Marauder and Payday Provider and a number of other characters, he does all the music for our show, except for a handful of real bands have loaned their music to entrance themes. But special shout out to Rarg, Bad Dog No Biscuit, Fraught with Peril, Wolfram and Tiger, and I feel like Sean Hart, all for loaning out their music to the NDWA. Check out any of those people. They're all awesome musicians. But he does all the music, and I do all of the post-production, the editing, because it is a lot of post-production. So
sure, yeah,
I'm able to pump that out pretty quickly. That was my, what I went for in college. That's what I went for. It's I started out in the entertainment industry making web cartoons, and that is a lot of editing and multi-layers and stuff. So I just got really good at pumping things out really quickly, and so I do like everything in the end of that. But yeah, I'll tell you what, I lost my track of thought.
No problem. Actually, you kind of brought something up that I hadn't thought about talking about until just now. When I started this channel, obviously the idea was to get wrestling card information out there because there's just nobody doing it at the time. There's a few more now. But when I started doing it, it also became you listening to you talk about post-production and creative and stuff like that. This has now become like the ultimate hobby for me, as well as so like if there's somebody out there watching this that's looking for a creative outlet and things to do, I have zero production like experience. Like I punk rock this thing. I just jump into it. I learn as much as I can. I do what I can. So what do you have out there for anybody that's, looking for a creative outlet, and what advice would you give them as far as like starting a podcast, a YouTube channel, improv, anything like that?
Podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff are so easy to start that sometimes you can start them too early. Make sure and have a good idea of your focus. Like, don't just have it be, oh, me and my friends are funny, we're just going to talk about the topics of the day. That can work. It has, but also think about how many times it's worked and if you need another one of those out there. If you're going to do something very specific like wrestling trading cards or thumb wrestling, like if I'd have known that this was going to be a long running thing and I didn't think it was just going to be a one-time stupid sketch I made, then I would have not put it out so early. I definitely wouldn't have put out that first episode. Like I would have done some test episodes and stuff first,
I don't know though. I've got to play devil's advocate. Like, we referenced you as Paul Heyman earlier. Have you ever actually seen the very first episodes of ECW TV compared to what they ended up producing?
No, but I recently watched, what was their pay-per-views that had Havoc in the title?
The only thing, I don't know of any ECW ones. There was Halloween Havoc from WCW.
Okay, well, I watched a pay-per-view from '97 with Jenna Jameson and like Jerry Lawler was in it.
Okay. Is it Hardcore Heaven, maybe?
Hardcore Heaven. Heaven was the word, not Havoc. Yes. I recently watched that one, and let's not say I watched the whole thing. I certainly have. I certainly have watched part of it. Yeah, I've seen the production quality that they put forth in those times.
Yeah, so that production quality at that time, though, is like, night and day compared to what they started. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
and
when they started, they started
like them in that case.
And you said you started at a bar, and you're still doing it, kind of. That's where ECW actually started, in a sports bar before they moved to the ECW Arena, which was then a bingo hall. So
yeah, and hey, a bingo hall would be very nice. Look, Terrific Classic Rock Coffee is awesome. And we love them for what they do. But boy, if we could fill a bingo hall,
that would be great.
I'd be super excited about that.
So I want to transition to the cards, because this is something you actually just sent these to me one day, and I was like, what the heck? There's cards of this. How did you get into the trading card aspect of the wrestling organization?
Okay, I mean, that one's actually pretty simple. I was doing a few of them just to promote just for us to give out at any live events or whatever we did. They were made by MakePlayingCards.com, which at the time didn't even have square edge options. It was just playing cards, and so I'm also a graphic designer. I wear many hats, and I just mocked up a couple really quick, like the American card that I gave you. That's one of the early promo cards. And I just started giving them out. And then a local record store who has always been really good about backing us up on stuff, called Heavy Heads. They decided that they wanted to go ahead and do a thing where they gave away cards of our thing in their online orders to try to get word about thumb wrestling out to the masses, because they do a lot of business online. That's their primary source of income, I assume. I don't know. I just know that he talks about how well the online does, so I don't want to talk about his business.
Sure.
No, he just tells me that it does very well. And so I decided that we had Eddie's Headies was coming up on their new sponsorship. So we were like, hey, let's throw in the trading cards as part of the sponsorship. Let's have their sponsorship pay for some trading cards. And we ended up only doing 250 because we only had so much we were giving away through Heavy Heads. So we only did 250 out of a 500 card contract with Eddie's Headies. So Eddie's Headies and Heavy Heads were on these cards. That was the 20 card set that I sent you. And it was a resounding success. People loved those cards. They flew off the inside of record boxes. And then it just became, we needed to do 250 more. And I was like, well, if it was such a success, let's do a proper trading card release. Let's actually do packs. So I did a lot of research, and I found waxwrappers.com is a great place to get custom wax wrappers if that's the kind of thing you're looking to do. Highly recommend those cats. I found, and I still use makeplayingcards.com. There are cheaper options if you're going to do bulk items, but in my research, they were just the cheapest ones who do short order stuff. So they let me have the variety that I need, and they weren't super expensive. So I went with them. And then all you do is you design the cards, take an iron, and just iron up those wax packs, and there you go. I just really wanted to do everything because I didn't know if I was ever going to get to make another wrestling card set. I hope I get to, because it was super fun, but I never knew. Who knows? Yeah. And the set that I sent you, the 20 card set, that was based on Topps 85, because we want to invoke that nostalgic feeling. That's our whole thing, is wrestling nostalgia, 80s and 90s nostalgia. So I wanted to do something that looked like a pre-established set. And this time around, I was like, well, let's do the same thing again if it was such a success. So the base set kind of looks like Topps 87. And then everything else, all the chase sets and stuff, were just like, I just want to do whatever I want to do. Right. And so like there was a lot of that art that's in the trading card set was stuff we did for other things. And I'm like, well, let's throw that in there. That's some cool art, and some candid shots got thrown in as cards. And like the JTW set subset, which is a 5-card subset, that is that sort of like background stuff that you have to have read our zine that we put out in order to really understand even why that's there. But I love the look of those cards so much, I kept them in.
So do you have a definitive checklist of what you've released and numbers and print runs? Because if you do, we need to get this onto WrestlingTradingCards.com. Tony Vella, I know you're watching out there. You need to get a hold of this guy.
It's interesting that you should say that, because you know where you can find the checklist for all of these is at WrestlingTradingCards.com. You go to their 2021 releases. And it's under I think he put NDWA at the end, so it's under Professional Thumb Wrestling All Stars NDWA Thumbs.
I haven't you know what? I've been using the site a lot lately for some of the videos, but it's mostly been the vintage stuff. So 2021, I haven't looked at. Is that is 2021 the main year of your cards, or do you have stuff out previously from a year perspective?
Some of those, the round corner ones that I have no print numbers. I wasn't paying attention when I did them. I have no idea how many I printed out, and I don't really remember how many designs there were. Those came out in like 2019, 2020. Okay. And but the set I sent you came out in January of this year, and then the one we put out in packs came out in like a few months ago.
So we've seen just a huge explosion of indie card sets for wrestling. All these small promotions, or the mom and pop merch stores that make stuff for the wrestlers, starting to put out a lot of these cards, and different shapes, different styles. Some have autographs, parallels, etc. But the thing that I think is it's a chase almost for wrestling fans is to just get a hold of these. Because I think the indie promotions are doing this the right way. They're putting things in there you want. They're putting cards in there of the first stars, the first time they've ever appeared, but they're keeping that print run low. And when you said that, you had a maximum of 500, but you only stuck with 250, like that's actually really rare. So if you decide to start making some others, or if you already have, are there any ideas as from a rarity scarcity point of view that you plan to put into these cards?
Yes, for sure. The way I started that response made me feel like I needed to push my glasses up. Yes, for sure. Let me. Yeah, I really, one of the things I learned from this set is that I put out is, you don't need so many chase sets. You can I'm happy with the number I put out. Going forward, I might do a few less, because chase sets are fun, but at the end of the day, if it's not extra rare compared to the base set, then what are we doing here?
Right.
So like what we put out, we have 6 relic cards and 9 one-of-one autograph cards, and then the rest of everything else is pretty much the same print run. And if I were doing it again, I would have made the chase cards maybe a little lower print run or some such.
So are you just randomly putting these in?
Yes. Yeah, I get them. I made the only non-random part is I made sure that no pack had 2 signatures in it. That's the only part that's not random, is I just made sure that the 9 signatures were spread throughout the 100, only 100 packs available, all serial numbered. And
nice.
Yeah, I made sure that those signature cards were not doubled up anywhere. But otherwise, everything else is at random. I can't even promise that you won't get a double in a pack. I really tried hard, but I also
hey, you know what? Random. When you're buying packs, that's how it goes.
Sometimes, yes. So yeah, that's my main thing. Is I would say scarcity and rarity is a thing to keep in
absolutely
in mind. But there's also something to say that not everything needs to be SSP. Some things can just be SP.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of. If you've watched my content, there's tons of the wrestling collectors out there that just want the base sets, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a mighty handsome base set.
Yeah, and even the base sets for. I mean, you said it yourself. If you have a production run of 250, that's not very many.
Well, I did not fully state. We only had to produce 250 cards. We ended up making a run of 500. So
well, still though.
It's a still small set. It's a 100 packs, 5 cards a pack, 2 stickers a pack, and so 7 things in each pack. But yeah, so it's still a small run, and I think a small run is important for indie. Like, don't get too far ahead of yourself, because like what you don't want is just having a bunch at the end of the day that didn't sell.
Right?
Because if nobody's looking at them, why did you make them?
Right. So for everybody out there watching, because I know people that are watching this are fans of those indie cards, do you still have some of these available? And if so, where could they find them?
I have roughly 23 packs left. You can get them on our website. Technically, I'm using eBay as a marketplace for this, just because it's the easiest one, and people can find us by searching very easily. But you can also go to NDWA-thumbs.com, National Digit Wrestling Association, thumbs.com. And just the first one, I was just telling you what the NDWA stood for again to help my enunciation.
Sure.
You can get them there. There's links there. It's just a link tree page, but it has links to everything we do, including the packs. And I don't know, I okayed this with you beforehand. Did you want to announce the thing, or do you want?
No, I'm going to give it to you, but I did want to say, just in case anybody didn't catch that, links below. I put all my links to all my content, but right at the top of all of those links will be the link to your website for them to. Now, is your YouTube page is on the link tree also, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
But for those of you who don't want to bother with going to the website, our username is NDWA Thumbs. It's NDWA Thumbs on everything. All the social medias that we take part in, and YouTube, and everything is NDWA Thumbs.
Well, there you go. You got all your announcements. That's usually where I close, where people can find you, but you already did that. But we're going to close with a giveaway, and I'm going to let you take it.
Okay. Well, I did not clear how we were going to do this, so let's just say...
We figured out on the fly. It's improv.
It's improv. All right. Well, let's just say the first person to comment on this video with their favorite actual digit dynamo. It has to be somebody who's actually on our program. And it really, my suggestion is, if you don't know, just go to our website and look at it and see the first person.
They got to do the work.
But you got to do the work. First person who comments with an actual thumb wrestler from our program will get 2 packs of the 2021 Professional Thumb Wrestling All-Stars. You get serial numbered 50 and 44. Those are the
Nice.
2 packs I will be sending you. And that will be at my expense, so no worries about paying postage or anything. I will take care of that.
And I'll also throw in there, whoever does this, I'll make sure to like the comment. Then you can get a hold of me on any social platform, and I will contact Doug with your information, and we'll go that route. You got anything else that we haven't touched on about the NDWA or your collecting that we need to get out of there before we get out of here?
No, just watch us act real goofy. It's super fun. We have a good time doing it. People have a good time watching it. I don't know anybody who hates it. It's not for everybody, but I don't know anybody who's just like, this is awful. So, at least give it a shot. It's fun. Especially if you watch Zhan stuff, you're going to at least go, oh, when you watch it, if not really love it. So, check it out.
I think when I first started, I watched I skimmed through a couple episodes, and then the next thing I know, I was like, all right, I'm just going to watch all these because this is like, I don't even know what I'm watching. It's so different.
That does bring up an excellent point. If you're new and the sheer amount of shows that we put out is overwhelming you, I highly recommend starting with this year. Season 7 started January of this year. We really condensed our storytelling. We started putting out just 1 episode a month. So we really started spelling out everything so you don't have to watch 1 episode a week to know what's happening. You can really just jump on. It's longer episodes, but they're fun and they move a lot faster than you think they're going to. And you'll eventually find yourself wanting to see more and then going back and watching the old stuff.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for plugging all of these things. Thanks for creating trading cards and creating something fun for people to watch that is just not, it's outside the box. It's not typically what people would expect. And thank you for giving me your time today for the interview. I know you plugged your social media. Once again, everything for Doug and the NDWA will be listed below in the show notes. Doug, thanks again for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great conversation. Also, the aspect that you shared about just collecting different things. This is a wrestling card channel mostly, but we all like to collect different things, so it's nice to hear that take. Anything else?
And like you said, you always say you gotta collect the stuff you don't want just to get the stuff you do want sometimes.
Man, leaving on that note, I might have to get you back on to talk about that stuff sometimes. So, all right, thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks again to Doug for coming on the show and giving me his time talking about the NDWA. Again, something super creative and super original, in my opinion. And I love that he's producing wrestling cards for the characters. Don't forget, comment below with your favorite wrestler from the organization, and you can win those packs that he talked about. And once again, check the links below for the links to the NDWA website, all their social media, the YouTube channel, which you definitely need to subscribe to their YouTube channel as well. Thank you guys for watching. Continue to support my content. Support the NDWA. If you got any questions, let me know. Again, social links are in the show notes. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Until next time, see you, wrestling fans.